In today's video, I'm going to be ranking every single champion based on when you need mobility. So by the end of this video, you'll be able to identify in Champ Select when you actually need to lock in a champion with mobility. And it's important to note some of these champions are not so threatening by themselves, but they become enabled when they're comboed with other champions and other abilities. So starting off, we have the rankings of the tier list. S, very hard. This is what I deem you need to lock in something with mobility 100% of the time. Hard, most of the time, you're going to have a hard time against these champions. But given the right circumstances, given the right team comps, there is room for you to kind of wiggle around and actually play against. B, medium, this is what I consider the tier where they do have some threat, but for the most part, you can actually outplay it, or your flash becomes like the most valuable spell. C, mobility helps, but it's not required. And D, don't need mobility. This is something you can just look over. You don't really even blink or flinch towards these champions. All right, starting off with Aatrox. For the most part, his skills are not too threatening by themselves, but he becomes really, really annoying to deal with when he actually flanks you and actually gets on top of you. If you do or you don't have mobility, him flanking you isn't enough of a threat, so I don't consider mobility being too essential against Aatrox. Ahri, Ava's champion by herself, she's not too threatening, just because of her damage numbers, but I think when she has some sort of setup, or if she is flanking, like Aatrox, she actually becomes really annoying to deal with. So other champions who can set her up are like Vi, or like Nautilus, these sort of champions that just lock down the target. So I'm gonna put her in medium. Akali, I think if the mobility that you have can jump over walls, it can actually be really annoying for her to deal with. Just for the fact that her R1 has to be targeted. So I'm gonna put her in C tier. Akshan, for the most part, when you're dealing with Akshan in team fights, it's mainly figuring out where he actually is and playing around your pink wards if you have them. So I'm gonna put him in B tier next to Ahri. Alistar, mobility is king against Alistar. You know, as an AD carry, when I see Alistar and I pick Ezreal, it's obviously a really hard time. But I think he's gonna go. I'll put him in A tier for now. Ambessa, this one's a little bit tricky. Since she does combo really well with other diving champions if she's able to just guarantee her ulti in her team fights. But I also think just by herself, like in solo queue, with the first strike build, she has so much threat, so much damage coming through with her ulti that I'm gonna put her in 8 tier. Amumu, this is the first champ that we've kind of out of the list that cleanse kind of takes care of him. But I do think it's his ult is so wide, and if he does has flash, he can hit you with the R flash. So I'm gonna put him in A tier right now. And Anivia, I would say, is probably one of the most difficult champions to deal with if you're going into Anivia and and the Anivia player is skilled. And I think for the most part, Anivia players are one tricks. So I'm gonna say put her in very hard tier. Not only is she really good at dealing with people diving into her, but she can also do things like if you're running away from the jungler, she can flash in the wall behind you, and you basically have no escape. And next we have Annie. I think Annie's a bit tricky because her CC is instant with the Tibbers, and most of the time it's really hard to react to. She does become annoying if she is flanking. I'm gonna put her in B tier for the fact that yes, if you get locked down by flash tibbers without mobility, you are just a sitting duck and you're guaranteed to die pretty much. But I think having mobility, it's more like having immunity is more important against Annie than having mobility. Because if you have cleanse, if you have something like Xayah ulti, then it's actually outplayable. Aphelios, I'm gonna put him easy tier. He doesn't really have too much threat by himself. Like, he kind of needs setup, and the only way he has to actually chase you down is with red Q or purple ulti, which he's not gonna have all the time. So I'm gonna put him easy tier. Mobility versus Ashe, I think it does give you some playability against her, since she has approach velocity, she has the slows that she's constantly chasing you down with. So I'm gonna put it in B tier. Asol, I think this champion is really obnoxious to deal with, especially once he gets Riley's, especially when he has the upgraded ult. I'm gonna put him in A tier. And also, yeah, in late game scenarios, right? He's got his fully stacked up passive. He's got 200, 300 stacks. By that time, his W range is already like a semi-global. So you're kind of a sitting duck if you don't have mobility. Aurora, kind of same feeling as Amumu, where she has such a long engage range, and she can be so annoying. Just by like dipping in and out of the ulti. I think it was worse than before when her ult was a longer duration. I'm gonna put her in A tier still. Azir, I know Azir's known for like the Shurima shuffle, but I think that is like the flashy way to play Azir. Most of the time, Azir is just a DPS unit. He's just sitting in the back line, hitting the front line, and then doing the Shurima shuffle if he has to. So I'm gonna put it in B tier. And it's also kind of telegraphed when he is going for it, right? Like, he's kind of ignores the front line and he's like fishing for it. You can sort of tell. But I'm gonna put A tier. Doesn't need too much explanation. Like, if you have no mobility versus Bardolt, it's very easy to be picked off in mid to late. Bel'Veth, gonna put B tier. Just because even though she has multiple dashes and she has like the connecting dash with her W, I think if she misses her W, she pretty much has no range on you. All right, on to Blitzcrank. I think he's an obvious A tier. Just having that threat of a Blitzcrank hook being in any bush, being around any wall, is really annoying to play around. So even if he is not actually hooking you every single fight, just the threat of Blitzcrank being in the game is quite a difficulty that you have to kind of overcome. Brand, kind of similar to Asol, where he has Rylai's and he has a lot of AoE like damage that spreads. I would put him A tier, but I think it's a little bit conditional that your team comp has to be like very clumped and like death body for Brand to really succeed. It's not as easy compared to Asol to just breathe down fire and drop. Like, if Asol has his upgraded ult, you're guaranteed to get hit and slowed, and Brand can't fly. So I've got to put him in B tier. Braum, this is the first champ that I really see that like I don't really need mobility against ever. Briar, I think Briar, she does have like a lot of mobility around walls and stuff and a lot of reach, but it's gonna depend on if your team comp has enough like lockdown to actually deal with her. Like, if you have a Braum on your team and can actually peel the Briar, you actually don't need mobility. So it's a bit conditional in that sense. I'm gonna put it in C tier. But she can be like, if your team is like full squishes and you have Master Jungle, she can actually be really annoying to deal with. Caitlyn. Depends on the champ you pick. Like, if you're a short range champion with no gap close against Caitlyn, you're gonna have a really bad time. But yeah, if you do have gap close, then reaching her is a lot easier. I'm gonna put a C tier. Camille goes in A tier for me, purely for this fact that she can reach so long with like hookshot plus flash and ulti. But if she has something next to her like a Galio, like a Nocturne, then she can actually just go to S tier, where anytime she has flash, now you're just afraid for your life every single fight. Cassio, I'm gonna say C tier. She has like medium range, and she can itemize Rylai's, but for the most part, it's mainly around dodging her Q. If you can dodge her Q, then her damage goes away. Cho'Gath, I am gonna say C tier. I think this version of Cho'Gath right now is not so threatening. Not as much as compared to, you know, the Everfrost Cho'Gath or the Shurelya's Dead Man's build, where he could just walk at you and kill you. Nowadays, yeah, it's pretty much just gonna be tank Cho'Gath, and I think that's not as scary. Like, his knockup's not as scary. Yeah. Corki, if he had the package, it would probably be somewhere here. Right now, it's we don't even consider building mobility against Corki. Darius, I'm gonna go C tier. It's similar to just like, I guess if he does run, yeah, he will run Ghost. Running Ghost is a little bit of a problem, but yeah, I don't think you need it. The problem with Darius is, do you have enough damage to deal with him, or is he just gonna heal up through his Q and his Conqueror or whatever rune he runs? Diana, I think she's like maybe a B tier for me, but if she has something like, if she has Yasuo in her back pocket, right, then her ulti becomes a lot more threatening. But by herself, she's B tier. Mundo, we don't need mobility. He's kind of just a big blob running at you. Draven, kind of the same thing. I mean, it can help in some matchups having mobility, but I don't think you actually need mobility. There are some matchups where Draven will just run you down the lane if you're sitting duck, like 1v1. But I think that's not something you would consider in champ select. To pick, you would just want to pick a champion that can deal with Draven in 2v2 or 1v1 just fine. Echo, I'm gonna say easy tier. His W is pretty easy to dodge. There's a big delay. Obviously, if he casts it from Fog of War, you don't see the cast animation. You don't hear the sound. But yeah, I don't see too much threat from Echo. Elise, I'm gonna put her C tier. I think the early game is where you need to be able to dodge her ganks so that she like doesn't snowball the game. Oh, actually, should I put? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think she stays in C tier. Evelynn, kind of same feeling as Akshan. Positioning matters more before the fight and like actually claiming space than having mobility. Ezreal, I'm gonna say C tier. It's nice having mobility against Ezreal to dodge his skill shots or gap close, but it's not required. Fiddlesticks, like once he's on top of you with his ult, he's going to like chain CC with the fear and whatever. So I don't think it's actually that crucial. I'm gonna put him the B tier. Fiora, I'm gonna say it's nice to have mobility against her, but not required. We kind of what you're looking to do against Fiora is bait out her riposte and then just go fully gung ho on her. Fizz, I'm gonna say A tier, just for the fact that like pretty much if you're in a team fight and Fizz just has his ulti, it's kind of like Blitzcrank. If he just has his ulti and he doesn't throw it out, it's really hard for you to actually walk up. And even if it doesn't land on you, right, Fizz creates this giant circle in the team fight where you can't walk up into him. All right, Galio by himself, not the scariest, even though he has, you know, Flash with Nimbus Cloak and his taunt. He's more of a champ that needs setup, right? So he can go up to A and maybe even S tier if he has like something like a Camille or something else that goes in. like a Rakan, but by himself he's like a B tier. GP, gonna say A tier. Cannon Barrage is slow, is super obnoxious, and he's got he's got 5 barrels to deal with, right? So it's kind of like Blitzcrank where you're just guessing in is GP in this bush, is he waiting around this bush, or when you're approaching Dragon or Baron Pit, has he got a barrel over the wall? You just have to respect it. Garen C tier, I think. Well, actually, yeah, I think C tier with the other champions in C tier that I've put. I think Garen deserves to go there. Nah, yeah, I'm gonna say C tier. I think. I don't think it's really required. Gragas B tier, I think. Oh, previous point on Gnar as well. It's like you kind of know when you need to play around Gnar because of the Mega Bar. So that like 20-second window where he is Mega, you just position a little different. You don't stand next to the wall. You kind of read if he is going for a jump or not. And like when the time is expiring, you know he has to go. Gragas put in B tier because his ulti plus E flash is super threatening. It's actually something worth considering. Graves don't need mobility. Smokescreen's really OP, but it's not something we should be worrying about in Champ Select. Gwen C tier, she has a long engage range with her, like if she runs Ghost with her ulti. But other than that, it's not too much. You shouldn't be sweating over it. Hecarim, I'm debating between S and A tier. I think he deserves A tier because like as an AD carry, if you are just like farming mid, he can just gank you from pretty much any point in the lane. Lane gank even with his E plus Ghost. His reach is pretty far. Kind of a champ like Zac, where every mid wave you're gonna need guys to protect you. Heimerdinger, he can be really annoying to deal with, and it kind of depends. It depends on what you're trying to do against Heimer. Because if you're diving into Heimer, then yes, mobility you're gonna need to just get through all of his turrets. But if he's trying to engage onto you with a grenade, it's very hard for him to like throw a max range grenade. So I'm gonna put him B tier. Hwei, I think if you're shorter range than Hwei, he's really obnoxious. So you 100% need gap close, but I think for the most part he's fine. I'm gonna put him B tier. Illaoi, I mean her tentacles, and she has a lot of AoE actually. I think in team fights, well, I'm gonna put a C tier because the animations are really slow with the tentacles, but she pops off when everyone is on top of her, and she has like 5 tentacles spawned. Then you can't really walk in, right? Irelia, I'm gonna put a. Is she more difficult to deal with than Aatrox? I think so, but yeah, I'm gonna put a B tier. Just because she has more options. Like when she drops her ulti, when she drops her stun in the team fight, any of your teammates that are marked are like danger points. Like you can't really walk up next to your teammate if they're tagged by Aurelia's passive. Kind of just like Lee Sin, right? If Lee Sin lands a Q on your teammate, you can't stand next to them. Ivan, I actually think Ivan is dangerously, or he's like, how do I say it? Ivan is like unexpected. You don't expect him to run you down, but like him with Daisy plus his trigger seed slow, like you just get run down sometimes by Ivan. So I think B tier. Janna, we don't really need mobility versus her. Jarvan, I think it belongs in S tier. Pretty much Jarvan by himself can just kill you with his ulti sometimes, and then if he's comboed with anything else, like a Galio, like Asol, like Aurora, you will just get blown up every time you don't have flash. Jax. I think Jax belongs similar to like B tier. Jace, I think this is something we don't really need mobility against. It's more so the poking that is annoying from Jace, not like outplaying his kit. Jhin, I think mobility helps, but it's not needed. Um, yeah, I'm gonna put him D tier. Jinx, you don't need mobility against. Kai'Sa, not really. Kalista, it helps. Helps to basically neuter Kalista. Like her win condition in laning phase, especially, is landing a slow from her auto attack or QE and then running you down. But if you have mobility, you can kind of cancel that out and just disengage. Karma, by herself, she's not that threatening because late game she's mantra Eing, she's not mantra Qing, and I think she's like an enabling champ. So I'm gonna put her like D tier, right? Where if she is comboed with like a bruiser, like a Hecarim, she's gonna be scary, but by herself you don't consider it. Karthus. Well, having mobility versus Karthus is really annoying for him to deal with, but it's more so like range. If you have range against Karthus, you outrange his Skittles, then he can't actually do anything. I'm gonna put him like B tier. Kassadin, having mobility versus Kassadin. I think it's not something you consider too much in champ select. Like, okay, in the later stage of the game, even when he's like level 11, he can just be really obnoxious. And hit you with this. I'm gonna put him C tier. Katarina, it's not mobility that's the problem. It's CC and lockdown. Kayle, it's not something we should really be bothered about. Kayn, now I know right now it's mostly red Kayn that's being picked. Which does that change? Does that change the ranking? No, I don't think so. I don't think. Does he go B or C? I think C. Like mobility helps versus him, but it's not required. Kennen. I think he has to go B tier. Even though I've said other champions that are super threatening on flank, I think no mobility, no disruption against Kennen. He'll pretty much just get on top of you every single fight with like flash per belt. But he does get countered super hard by exhaust. Kha'Zix, I think maybe D tier, maybe C tier. Like if he goes evolve W, he can be really annoying just like as a poke champion, but I'm gonna say C. Kindred, don't really need mobility. Kled, it helps. I think he's on a similar plane where like he can run you down on midways or in long lanes with his ulti. But he's easier to deal with than everyone in A tier. So I'm gonna say B. Kog'Maw, don't really need mobility. K'Sante, I mean this is a hot take, but I think having mobility versus K'Sante is a little bit overrated. Like you more so just need to be able to kill him. I guess it depends on what your objective is. Like if your objective is to try and access the backline past K'Sante, then yes, mobility is good. But if you're just trying to front the back, then I don't actually think it's necessary. As funny as it may seem, like with all the montages where K'Sante just one shots a backline carry through 8 seconds of CC, I don't think it's required. LeBlanc, nah, not really. She will just one shot you if you have mobility or not. It helps dodging her, like if you can respond to her W or if you can dodge her E, it helps, but no. Lee Sin, I'm gonna say B tier. I think everyone sort of knows what Lee Sin does nowadays, where it's like him trying to go for an insect is not a surprise anymore. So you have to get really creative. And yeah, that's pretty much his only option to like win fights late game is to kick someone. So as long as you're aware of that, I don't think he doesn't belong in the same tier as everyone in A tier. That's what I'm looking at. Leona, good B tier. You can deal with her by having cleanse, especially against her ulti, but I think having mobility is really annoying for her Zenith Blade, where like if you're playing Ezreal, you can buffer it or just force her to go in and then she can't land the stun after. I think that's where mobility can actually play a factor. Lilia, oh, that's Nocturne. Lilia gonna go. It's probably a don't. Lissandra, kind of similar story with Leona. She gets countered by Merc Treads and Cleanse, but she can deal. Actually, I think she might be better than Leona. I'm gonna put her 8. Yeah, I'm gonna put her 8 here. Lucian, well, considering the fact Lucian's only picked with like Milio or Nami, anyways, I'm gonna put in. Oh yeah, I'm gonna put in C tier. Lulu doesn't. We don't really consider it. Lux, it helps. Malphite is very like extremely hard to play, especially if you're playing an 80 carry with no mobility. You're just gonna get run down and then clapped in the back while the whole team fight goes around. So something we always have to. It's either mobility or an immunity, right? Like Xayah ulti, like I don't know what else. Then we got Malzahar. Kind of similar thoughts as Brand. They kind of fulfill the same roles like Dot Mage. But obviously Malzahar has that threat of just like flash ulting you. And you have to pay that QSS tax. So I think he's a little bit better than Brand. And he itemizes Rylai's as well, which is super obnoxious. Now I'm thinking, does Brand belong in A tier? Maybe Brand belongs in A tier. Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna go Brand and Malz in A tier. Actually, that doesn't seem right. No, I don't think Brand. I think Malz could go A tier, but Brand with. No, I think they just both belong in B. Maokai, he can be really good at like forcing fights, but his ulti is fairly like telegraphed. So I'm gonna put him B tier. Master Yi, I think it's B tier. Definitely, it relies more on you having lockdown or some sort of disengage against Master Yi than mobility, but mobility really helps because he's melee champion and he has one gap closer. So if you're able to like get over walls after he alpha strikes, he can't really do anything after. Mel, I'm gonna put it easy. You don't need mobility versus her, but it obviously helps since she's purely skill shots. Milio, we in the don't tier. MF. Since these days she's mostly like crit build, I think something we don't need mobility against. If it was lethality or like comet poke MF, I think it's a little bit of a different story. But anyways, Maud, gonna put him C tier. Mobility helps, just dancing around his abilities in the Death Realm. Morgana, Morgana, she's gonna go C tier as well. It helps, but actually don't need it. Naafiri, I actually think he's really annoying just because he has a point and click, right? He can just run straight to the 80 carry and just play a lot of disruption. So, and he has a lot of chase, right? With his E as well, E and W. Nami, she belongs. I mean, by herself, she can be. She's like a little bit annoying, but it just comes when she combos with other champions like Lucian or I don't know, Brand Nami. That's another bot lane combo that you might see. That's this. I think B tier. In his like mid to late game, he gets a bunch of haste and more points in W, where he just runs you down if you don't have anything. Nautilus, I think B tier as well. Just for obvious reasons, he has a bunch of CC, so if you don't have anything to avoid the hook, you will just get comboed to death. Nico, I think A tier. She has, again, a bunch of CC, but she has that like X factor of like always being able to like she can pretty reliably get a flank just because of her ability to disguise or like go around certain areas like with invisibility. I also think she's like really underrated right now since all the minion changes with waves spawning with one less melee minion. If you just disguise as a melee minion, people will just see like a minion wave with 3 melee minions and they just instantly think it's normal. So I think right now, if you want some free elo, just lock in Nico support, Nico mid, maybe even Nico jungle, and just go lane gank. Nidalee, don't need mobility. Nyla, I think mobility helps. I'm gonna put a B tier. Her engage range is actually surprisingly long. Nocturne A tier. Nunu, I'm gonna say S tier. Just because of like the Scuttle Crab interaction. The Scuttle Crab interaction, I guess Home Guards as well. He has so many ways to just like forcibly start a fight or like catch you out if you're not aware that he's in the game. That's like, and even though it's like quite predictable, like he has to go a certain direction, like he has to go through a lane or through the river and turn, right? Like the move speed he goes at is like, and the reach he has is like, you can't ward for it. You kind of just have to like respect it every single game. Olaf, I'm gonna put B tier. He's more, actually no, I think C tier. Orianna, ooh, I think A tier, but when she has a carrier like Nocturne, like Jarvan, like anyone on S tier that's melee, she becomes like super annoying to deal with. So it's like she's borderline S tier. Ornn, again, A tier, just super long engage range. You have to respect Call of the Forge God. Even if he's not the one killing you, he enables stuff like, you know, if you have a Kai'Sa on the enemy team and Ornn just casts ulti, you're just dead, right? Like you get knocked up and then that's an instant gateway for Kai'Sa to jump on you. Or like an assassin to flank you. So yeah, Ornn just creates a lot of mess. Now Pantheon, I think he does have a long range with his ult, but yeah, he does get countered quite hard by mobility. I'm gonna put him B tier. Poppy depends on the mobility, right? Because Poppy is a very she's very disruptive with her steadfast presence, I think it's called, or whatever her W is called. So I'm gonna put a C. Then going into Pyke, I think again it's like C tier. Pretty much that champ scales off after laning phase. So and in laning phase actually, as long as your support is playing correctly and like blocking hooks or disrupting him while he channels his hook, I think he's not that scary. Qiyana, let's see. Qiyana, I think she has to go A tier. In the laning phase, yes, she has a lot of kill threat, but I think the bigger problem is when you're doing like Baron or Dragon fights, which are going to happen every single game. Like, just play a team fight in the Baron pit against the Qiyana and you'll just see, right? There's no room that's safe, and in the river, everywhere stuns you with her ulti. So you kind of just get owned. You just get owned if you're starting the Dragon or Baron against Qiyana. Quinn, I think it's more for like a side lane thing or like not in team fights, but when people are like catching side lanes, she can actually catch you off guard. Kind of like Nunu. She throws you off. She throws you off with how fast she can actually rotate from a lane or run from base to the lane. I'm gonna put a B tier. Rakan, kind of similar to a lot of the other melee sports. And in laning phase, his only go in button is W. So if you have something for his W, you're pretty much safe. Rammus, I'm gonna put A tier. Similar to Nunu, similar to Quinn. He can kind of just run you down and then lock you down forever. Rek'Sai, I'm gonna go B tier. She used to be really, really annoying to deal with because it was either red side bot lane or top side blue side, top lane blue side. She could tunnel behind your Tribush and get behind you. And that gank path was really annoying. I think it's still possible, but like I guess it's more open. It's less unexpected. That's what I'm trying to say. So before she would be A tier with Prowler's Claw with the unique gank path, but nowadays it's more common knowledge, and it's less. You know, you're not thrown off as much. Rel, I think B tier. Renata, C tier. Depends. It depends with Renata, right? If you're like a Samira trying to play against Renata, like it's really annoying. I guess you have like the win wall, but pretty much she throws you around with her Q, she throws you around with the ult, and you just get messed up, right? So Renekton, I think C tier. It's not required. Rengar, I think definitely. Ooh, is he B or A? I think he's B. I don't think you're sweating that much if you see Rengar. Riven B again. Rumble is actually B because of his range, right? He can throw Equalizer pretty much off his screen. So you need to be really aware that like if there is a threat in front of you, Rumble can just follow up instantly with ulti and cut off your retreat. Rise, we're gonna go. Oh, he's like base champ. He's C tier, but he can do tricky stuff with Realm Warp, like get you on a flank or throw one of his teammates in the portal and get them to flank. So I think because of that fact, because he can do a lot of tricky things with Zold, you kind of have to put him B tier. Samira by herself, don't really care, but obviously she's only going to be picked with a melee support, so in that context, I guess C. Sejuani, C tier. Not too annoying, she gets countered by Murktrid's Cleanse. Senna, C tier. She has a long range, but I don't think mobility is that important. Seraphine. Ooh. Well, she's a lot of the time she's comboing with her teammates, right? She has teammates in front. So, oh my god, I just realized my webcam. She she has teammates in front, and she's gonna be throwing ulti in front. I think B tier. Especially with like Rylas as well. If she does go Rylas, she has that instant root with her E. So it's actually something to be fearful of. Set. Ooh. I think Set we have to go C. He's pretty easy to play around, honestly. I think late game your goal is as a carry is to pretty much watch where your tanks are sitting and not let him ulti a tank into you. That's your one objective. Shaco, I think we go A tier just because there's so much fearfulness of him just like being on top of you and spawning. If it's AP Shaco, AD Shaco, it doesn't really. Actually, maybe like AD Shaco is more threatening, like if he just one shots you, but they're both really annoying to deal with. Shen, sure it helps, but don't need it. Shyvana, we don't care. Singed. Gonna say B tier just because he drops the goop and he disables your flash and any other spells, so I'm gonna put him B tier. Sion, don't care. Sivir, don't really care. Skana, gotta put him Does he belong to C? Like he can lock you down for actually nah, he's B, he's B, easily B. Smolder, we don't care. Sono, C, I guess. Soraka, don't care. Swain, I think is actually hard. Like while you're in the fight, he's really annoying to deal with because he's got such a low cooldown on E. But he also has that added factor of he can just throw a W in front of you. And kind of cut off your retreat path. And it's from such a long range that you're not always expecting it. And Sylas, I mean, it depends, right? Sylas can be really annoying with other ults. If he picks up a Mumu ult, then yeah, it's even scarier than a Mumu because he has like a billion dashes. But I'm gonna put in base champ. Well, let's respect the context that he's probably picked with decent ults, not just like blind picks. First pick. So I'll put him B. Syndra, I think she's B. Just quite a long range, and yeah, if you can't really get past the stun, you can't really touch her at all. Tampkench, like, don't really care. Talia, comboed with other champions, she's really deadly. But just by herself, I think B. Talon. Ooh, Talon. Do we want mobility? Yes. Do we need it? I guess, yeah, he has that factor of like being able to hop walls and come at really unexpected ganking paths, or just flanking in team fights. Taric, C. It's annoying in lane phase when he can E-flash you, but yeah, I'm not too worried. Teemo, we don't need mobility. Thresh, probably. I mean, let's think about. He's definitely not in the same tier as those BT champs. Tristana helps. Trundle. I don't know. Sometimes this champion I see it's Thanos, and it completely can just pillar someone on mid lane when you have other dudes. But it feels wrong, you know. It feels wrong putting him above some of these champions. I guess not. No, I'm putting him A. Pillar is just an OP spell, guys. Tryndamere, actually no, we just don't care. We'll put him C. TF. Head, it helps, but it's not necessary. Countered by Murktide and Cleanse. Twitch, I think it actually we need some sort of way to deal with his invisibility. It might be mobility, it might not be. Like if you outstat check Twitch, he can't really just open up on you. But he's really obnoxious with like other enchanters. Like if he has a Yuumi on top of him, then you just spawn in and get Yuumi ulted out of stealth. Udyr, I think he's easily kited, but yeah, C tier. Urgot, I think he goes. Does he go B tier? Yeah, I think he goes B tier. Varus helps but not required. Vayne helps but not required, just because it's the fact she's always looking for like 1v1 or to just open an ulti on you. Veigar, I would say A tier, honestly. Cage is a super annoying ability. You comboed with any other AoE ability like a Seraphine ulti, like a Gragas cask, you will just get guaranteed stunned. Vel'Koz, we go B tier. Vex probably. Do we need mobility vs Vex? Yeah, I think she goes B tier. And Vi probably, like, she's a setup champion, but she still needs the range to get on top of you. So if you don't give her range, through that ability of just like being able to dash away, then yeah, her champion kind of cancels itself. Viego, we're gonna say C. Victor, don't need it. Vladimir, it helps because of his short range. Volibear helps. he can get kited really easily, but we also don't always need mobility. I guess it helps quite a bit because the way I'm justifying it is Volibear, the way he stays in the fight so long is if he can get W on the same guy twice. It doesn't always have to be you, but if he gets that heal off, he lasts in the fight so much longer. So if you're able to deny that, I think his champion becomes a lot weaker. Warwick. Where does Warwick belong? Warwick belongs in... I don't know. I want to put him B because he can just like run you down, but later in the game he does fall off where you're not as afraid, right? He's, even though he is a suppress, he's one of those champs you don't really need to buy QSS for because if he just starts ulting someone in the middle of 5 people, right? Someone's gonna CC him, surely. Wukong beats here. I think the stealth still is really annoying to deal with. Saya helps. Xerath. By himself, mobility helps, but I think when he's comboed with other people flying in, having mobility against Xerath ulti, especially, is super useful. Xin Zhao. Don't really care. Yasuo probably by himself, right? Like, he needs a mini wave to get on top of you, but if he has setup, then the champ becomes really strong. Yone, like similar to a lot of the other melee champions, needs a flank, needs to stack up his Q3 on like a blue buff or like the dragon. Then he actually becomes really obnoxious. Yorick, in a 1v1 standpoint, he just runs you down the lane if you have no mobility with like the E-slow and the cage. But I think in a team fight setting, it's like kind of whatever. His ghouls just like die. And his maiden can get focused, so I'm gonna put him C. And yeah, that's the difference between like Yorick and Ivan, right? Ivan can actually like pilot the Daisy like fully 100%, but Yorick can't. Like if the maiden gets stuck on someone or if she's just attacking something, she's just gonna stand there for a couple seconds and she can just die. Yunara, it's helpful, but you don't need it. Yuumi, if it was an old version of Yuumi, I'd put her higher, but nowadays it's C. Zahen, gonna put him C. Zac, probably S tier. Like you need mobility on mid waves. On his like, he has unique gank pathings as well, right? Where like you just don't expect a normal jungler to be hopping over this wall because of his E range. So yeah, I'm gonna say you need it. Zed, B tier. Who do we have left? Zeri. Mobility helps, but it's not required. Sometimes, a lot of the time in team fights, it's just like about stat checking. Obviously, you can dodge her auto attacks, which is massive, but don't absolutely need it. Ziggs. Ooh. Ziggs, when he has setup, like he's already set up around the dragon, you can't enter because he just has that minefield that he drops. So I'm gonna say A tier. That plus, if he does have champions who can combo and like, there's multiple modes, right? He can either be diving onto you and just throwing a super mega inferno bomb on top of you, or he's just like poking you over and over again. And it's like pretty much up to you to start the fight before he just stops. He just pokes you to death, right? Zilean, I think like later in the game he becomes really dangerous and really scary where gets on top of you, he just slows you and double bombs you, or he enables someone else to get on top of you. Like he will speed up his own engaged champion to just run at you and you can't escape. Zoe, I think B tier, and Zyra, the lucky last champion. Ooh, if I put Brand B tier, I think I have to put actually, but Zyra is really, yeah, I'm gonna put a B tier with the other dot mages. So yeah, this was a bit of a video, but TL is going through all the champions that we're gonna look at, that we're gonna see in Champ Select rather, and decide, do we need mobility versus these champs? This is kind of my outlook. It's not a perfect tier list because League of Legends is a complex game, and there's conditions that you have to consider, and then also consider the fact that some of these champions by themselves just don't do much, and then when they comboed with other things, or when they have the conditions met, like a flank, it's a nightmare to deal with. But hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to get coaching by me, use the link below, wtl.lol/crab, and use crab10 at the checkout for $10 off your first month.